When most folks hear the word crustacean, they probably tend to think of the tank of Dungeness crabs they saw at a grocery store or restaurant, or are perhaps transported back to a memory of catching scuttling shore crabs at the beach one summer holiday. But crustaceans are so much more diverse than that. There are over 50,000 currently described species, although some estimates suggest that there could be 10 to 100 times more than this, and within that species diversity can be found a truly incredible diversity of forms. Today, I'd like to introduce you to just a few of the common species which can be found in the Pacific waters around the Bamfield Marine Sciences Center. Shore crabs, like this purple shore crab, are quite common in the intertidal zone and can be found quite high on the beach. Quick on their feet and nimble in their navigation of rocks and sand, they'll eat anything they can get their little claws on, from algae to other small crustaceans and mollusks. Some other commonly found crabs in our region are the various spider crabs, such as the northern kelp crab, which can be observed by shore-bound folks on docks and pilings, or by boaters, snorkelers, and divers paddling through kelp forests, where these crabs are usually clinging to the kelp like a child with a safety blankie. This kelp is an important food source for kelp crabs in the summer in addition to providing a home, while in the winter they switch to animal prey, crunching barnacles and snagging jellyfish as they drift by. While the northern kelp crab is larger and more aggressive in its self-defense, many other spider crabs are much more delicate and docile, instead defending or disguising themselves by decorating their carapace with pieces of algae or invertebrate animals. This fascinating and beautiful decorative behavior can be extremely effective in camouflaging these crabs, not just visually, but also disguising the way they smell and taste to predators. Hermit crabs are a truly delightful find in almost any tide pool or rocky intertidal zone. A few different species can be encountered on our shorelines. The brave ones will boldly scurry across your palm, while the shy ones will only come out of their snail shell home to say hello if the observer exercises great patience and stillness of body. The dependence of a hermit on its chosen snail shell home for protection against predators is so complete that most hermits will be torn in half rather than allow themselves to be pulled from their shelter. Many species prefer certain kinds of snail shells, like this blue-band hermit, which is almost always found occupying the shell of a black turban snail, and looks as though it has perhaps recently put on some beautiful blue nail polish. Not all hermit crabs make their home in snail shells. A few species take up residence in empty calcified tubes, which were originally created by marine worms. These tube-dwelling hermits have elongated, straight abdomens rather than the coiled abdomen found on their snail shell-preferring relatives. We have one of these hermits in our lab, which at some point managed to move into a piece of plastic tubing, and has been living in and dragging around this mobile home ever since. Another fabulous local hermit is this Maroon Hermit, with its beautiful deep red coloration and characteristic gold eyeliner. Hermit crabs have a wide range of food preferences. Some scavenge leftover prey from other predators, some prey on smaller animals or algae, and others sort through sand and sediment for any and all bits of edible detritus. Many hermits are also filter feeders, swiping plankton and other floating organic material out of the water around them with fan-like mouthparts called maxillipeds, which you can see here on the Maroon Hermit. Hermit crabs show off prime examples of some of the main sensory structures found on all crustaceans, the two sets of antennae which are used for feeling, tasting, and smelling the world around them. You might not guess it just by looking at them, but another expert filter feeder is the porcelain crab, which can be found in astonishing abundances underneath loose rocks in the intertidal zone. The size of their claws, or chelae, might suggest that they are a particularly pinchy crab. However, I've never been pinched by a porcelain crab, and rather than using these large chelae for catching or breaking into prey, this group of species are actually much more inclined to use these front limbs to push other crabs away, or push themselves backwards. They will even quite willingly drop one claw off when threatened in order to distract and escape from a predator, just like some reptiles and amphibians will shed their tail. While it might seem perhaps just a little extreme to cut off your own arm to distract predators, this kind of limb autotomization is actually quite common in many crustaceans. It isn't even permanent, as crustaceans like this porcelain crab can regrow their legs and claws through the process of growth via molting, with a slightly larger limb reappearing as each old exoskeleton is shed. Filter feeding in this group of crabs is accomplished using the same maxilliped mouthparts seen earlier on the hermit crabs, but this behavior is extremely hard to observe in the wild. If you're lucky enough to entice them into feeding while in the lab, this collection of drifting food particles and plankton can be pretty dramatic in the porcelain crabs. These mouthparts can differ in their coloration between different species of porcelain crabs, and also seem to play a role in courtship behaviors. There's one crustacean which you'll come across on pretty much any beach, whether you're looking for it or not. Most rocky intertidal shorelines are covered in a variety of species of barnacles, ranging in size from tiny barnacles barely larger than the head of a pin up to massive fist-sized barnacles. While barnacles come in a variety of shapes and sizes, these organisms share the filter feeding technique seen in many other crustaceans, sweeping or reaching a fan-shaped feeding limb out into the water to collect microscopic food. Crustaceans have wildly diverse larval forms, which in many cases look absolutely nothing like their adult forms. They transition between these life stages through the process of molting their exoskeleton in a similar way to how adult crustaceans molt to grow larger, except when transitioning between larval stages, the final product looks quite different from the previous stage. A single species might even metamorphose through a few different larval stages before reaching adulthood. During this period of larval uncertainty, while these crustaceans navigate an almost pubescent journey through a variety of hormone-induced changing bodies, these crustaceans are considered plankton, which means they drift around wherever the currents might take them before they finally metamorphose into an adult form and settle down to the ocean floor. Some other crustaceans, like these tiny copepods, spend their entire lives as plankton, permanently suspended in the water column. Some of these more obscure groups of crustaceans are still astonishingly diverse, and copepods are a prime example, with roughly 13,000 known species. Just for some context, there are only around 6,400 known species of mammals on our planet, which means there are roughly twice as many copepod species as there are mammal species. Another group of crustaceans which is largely ignored by the average human being are the amphipods. You might know them best as the beach hoppers or sand fleas commonly encountered on sandy beaches, but amphipods are found throughout almost all marine and freshwater environments, all the way down to the deepest parts of the ocean. This group also demonstrates incredible species diversity with over 10,000 known species. Some are planktonic, while others, like these skeleton shrimp, which are actually technically an amphipod despite the name, live attached to other organisms and in various habitats on the ocean floor. Not all crustaceans are aquatic. If you've ever lifted up a partially rotten log or lived in a basement suite, you've probably encountered a terrestrial crustacean. Commonly known by many names including roly-poly bugs, potato bugs, woodlice, pill bugs, or sow bugs, these little creatures are technically an isopod crustacean. Different parts of England have even stranger names for this crustacean, including Charlie Pig, Cheesy Papa, Daddy Gramper, Dandy Postman, and Monkey Pea. This video has only barely hinted at the wild and wacky diversity found throughout the crustacean group. We've just brushed the surface of the various groups of animals, commonly referred to as crabs, and don't even get me started on the incredible and often only distantly related groups of crustaceans which have been assigned the common name shrimp. To some viewers, crustaceans seen up close might come across as a little bit freaky, but when viewed through the right lens, I hope I've shown you that they can actually be quite cute, not to mention full of charming personality.